is Lady Maya. I am here with Mr. Geoff Zimmerman. This man has so many angles and so many dimensions to him. I just got lost if you heard our conversation prior to me putting this recording on. Sir, you are with the Navigator Personal Development.
That's right.
LLC.
That's right.
In Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And he has just started that. But before that, he was doing financial for 25 years. He made a big leap, you guys, all I'm saying. But he did it in the right way, because what he's doing to help everyone is coaching with the leadership and communication. So I'm going to let him introduce and explain the premise of the group.
Thank you, Lady Maya. I'm so glad to be here with you this afternoon. I appreciate the time. And we started our connection out on Facebook, as so many happen, and started talking about sort of what we want to do and how to go through this. So as you mentioned, my company's Navigator Personal Development. I'm based out of Saint Augustine, Florida, but with the technology we have available to us, I can reach out to anybody all over the world. I think I have Facebook friends now on 6 of the 7 continents. I don't know if I have any friends in Antarctica yet, but maybe, I don't know. And it's really, really interesting to just have conversations with people all over the world and talk not only about what they're struggling with as far as the virus and the quarantine and all that kind of stuff, but just learning about so many cultural differences that there are around the world and expectations and such. So in my company, I provide, it really boils down to 5 different things that I do. I do public speaking, so a keynote speaker at an event or what have you. I'm always happy to do that sort of thing. I have a dream somewhere in the back of my mind that I want to speak in front of a room of 34,500 people. Now, I don't know where that number came from, but it keeps popping up in my head, so I'm throwing it out to the universe and we'll see what happens. I also do training. I train on a variety of topics, but generally they focus on communication skills or leadership. Right now I'm doing a course for the American Red Cross. They've got a set of new leaders down here in Florida that I'm working with, so it's always fun to help out folks who are in that situation. I work as a personal and small group coach. I guess probably if you were to categorize the kind of coaching that I do, it's a life coach, because I don't really focus on business or finances or health or that sort of thing. And I do have friends who focus in those areas, but oftentimes what they find is that, you're one human being, right? So Lady Maya, you and I were talking earlier about women think like spaghetti and men think like waffles. As far as, are things all tangled together, or are they nice and compartmentalized? And I must be in touch with my feminine side, because maybe I'm like spaghetti and waffles, the way that I think about stuff. But that's what I do, is I help people understand the way that they think about things. Because every one of us have a belief system. I call it your BS, right? We all have a set of rules that define how we think about whatever we become aware of. Most people don't recognize that. I mean, it took me 50 trips around the sun before I realized, I have some control over my thoughts. When I'll take as an example, let's say, I pick up a snake and I bring it into a room. Some of the people are going to freak out and scream and run away from it. Some of the people are going to say, it's all right that it's in here, but I'm not moving. And some of the people are going to say, ooh, I would love to hold that. I know a lot about snakes. Let me touch it, and let me touch it and learn about it. And so because you have so many people responding differently to that one single stimulus, the fact that there's a snake in the room tells me that the way that people learn about things, the way that they respond, the internal rules that they have in their mind about what to do when something happens, that's different for each one of us. And so it has to be a learned behavior. And so if we've learned it, how can we unlearn it? How can we learn something different? And that's what I help people do in the coaching part of my business is they'll come and they'll say, hey, I'm stuck on this, or I'm trying to accomplish something. You know, I would love to do this, but I can't do this because I'm a middle-aged white guy. Whoa, time out. What is it about the color of your skin or the age of your body that determines whether or not you are capable, whether or not you are worthy, whether or not you are required to do any given thing? That has to be learned behavior. So how do we get away from that? How do we help people, you know, sort of think differently about themselves? You know, for a long time, I've always thought there's so much human potential that gets wasted because we put each other down, because we put each other into boxes, because we say, I don't care about your opinion based on the way that you look, based on what I know about you. And oftentimes, and this is the part that breaks my heart, is people will hear that message and they will identify with whatever that demographic, whatever that adjective is, and they will take that to heart and say, oh, you must be right. I'm not worthy. I'm not capable. I am required. And it's simply not true. And so that's what I try to help people do on the coaching side. I'm also licensed to use a tool called DISC, which is sort of an online survey that brings back a report, and it helps you understand how you prefer to communicate. And more importantly, it helps you understand that there are other people who communicate differently, and what do you have to do? How do you modify the way that you interact with an individual to make sure that you're communicating with them, but also that you're connecting with them? When I was in the training department in my previous career, one of the ladies I work with had a sign on her desk, and it said, "Don't explain things so people can understand them. Explain things so they can't misunderstand them." That's a big difference, right? It means that you have to understand enough about the person that you're working with, that you're communicating to know what they need as far as communication is concerned. Okay. I'm the kind of person, I love details. I'm all about digging in and finding out and figuring out and untangling. You know, people ask me what are my two favorite hobbies. One is untangling Christmas lights, right? If you give me a big old pile of Christmas mess, I will be just happy as can be trying to figure out how do I get it till it's undone. The other thing I love to do is put together furniture kits, you know, like IKEA or Souder or any of that kind of, I love it, right? I'll stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning if I bought a new furniture kit, just making sure that it all gets put together. I don't know why, but that's just how I operate, right? Other people are like, I'm not going anywhere near tangled Christmas lights, just throw them out and we'll buy some new ones. Or, you know, let me buy my furniture already assembled, thank you very much. So there's different people, there's different ways people think about things. Some people want to know what's the bottom line. Like, let's make a decision and move forward. We'll figure out along the way. Some people they're all about the fun. We're having a good time together. You know, let's get all together. And, you know, as long as we're having fun, I don't care what it is that we're doing. There are certain people who are like, this is my world. Don't mess with my world. I need it to stay pretty much the same. And you better have a really darn good reason why we're going to change my world. And before I budge, I better understand what I have to give up before I can go for whatever this new thing is, right? So people are all over the map. But fortunately, we're sort of predictably different. And once we know a little bit about ourselves and we learn about how other people behave, then we can figure that out. Yeah. And then I use a tool called the leadership game. And that's really sort of a more social kind of activity, but it you know, in sort of the context of a fun environment of a game and we're playing together and, you know, building camaraderie, we actually have some really deep, powerful conversations to come to learn about one another, recognize one another. perhaps even come out with a business plan or a life plan or something moving forward. And I do that with adults in businesses, some really big name businesses that I've worked with. And I also do it with youth groups, church youth groups or that sort of organization. So that's it about me. Personally, I have 3 children. They're all adults. They're all, making their way into the world. And I have 1 grandson, and I've been married 28 years. So.
Woo! Yes, I hear that, sir. You living the dream. Yes.
I am living the dream. I used to live up north where there was snow. I was in New Hampshire till 2011.
Wow, New Hampshire.
Yes.
Yeah, that was way colder than Philly. I grew up in Philly, so that
Gotcha.
was.
Gotcha.
No, I don't like y'all snow. No. Okay, so you know what? Let me ask you this.
Sure.
With what you're doing now, how much do you feel that you've been able to personally impact others that's around you or that you have access to with this disc?
To be honest, disc hasn't been my primary focus over the past month or so, especially when we're down in, although I'm about to get more into that. Now that people are sort of settling down and, they've had a week or so quarantined with their significant other, their children, their dogs, in a way that they've never been before, I'm starting to pick up on, people are like, right, enough is enough here. There's some internal struggle going on in our household. And so I'm going to go a little bit more into that. What I've been trying to do is on a daily basis, I missed yesterday and I have to make up for that. I just go live on Facebook for probably 10 to 15 minutes. I'm certified with the John Maxwell team. So one of John's books is called The Maxwell Daily Reader. And there's just one page, which is for each day, an excerpt from his books. And I'll just go on and read that excerpt and then provide a little insight or my own thoughts, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes each day. And what I'm finding is in the next morning I'll come on and I'll have comments from people in Pakistan and India and Nigeria and Vietnam and all over the place. And they're commenting on my post, offering me thanks and sharing it with their community and, bringing it in, sharing it with their local churches or whoever. And so that I'll admit I was a little shy going into that the first time because it was new for me. But when I come back the next morning and see that that people are taking something away from it, that I'm able to add value into the world, which is right now, that's the most important thing to me, is moving forward in a positive way. But around 5 o'clock, I will get on and instead of having the camera on me, I'll read a children's book, a Dr. Seuss book or what have you. And I'll aim the camera at the book so that, little kids can see the pictures and see the words and I'll read along with that. I call it story time with Mr. Geoff. And so, somebody had sent me a screenshot. They had story time with Mr. Geoff up on their 65-inch television up on the wall, and they were enjoying story time. So that was really fun as well.
I think that is amazing. Yes, because you know what? So many little things. It's just the little things, that tend to mean the most. It has the most impact. Mm-hmm. And you having story time, you could put a whole lot of the adults to sleep, but keep the attention of the kids.
That's what I open up with. I said, all right, it's time for story time with Mr. Geoff. Moms and dads, sit your kids down, go have adult beverage, and then,
I know. That's brilliant.
Break time for mom and dad, right? I'll take care of your kids for 10 or 15 minutes here, and then.
Okay. Yes, you know what? We needed you years ago.
Well, I grew up with Mr. Rogers and Captain Kangaroo and all those guys, so.
I miss Captain Kangaroo. That was my favorite. Okay. So with the leadership, now have you always lived in Florida?
No, I actually, I grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, northeast corner of the state, right where Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan all come together.
Okay.
I went to school in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cool.
Went to Xavier University. I was actually the school mascot for a couple of years. Not the main mascot, not the musketeer. I was the big blue blob. So he's still called the big blue blob. If you remember the Bugs Bunny cartoon, you had the red monster, you know, the
Yeah.
Gossamer, and big Bugs Bunny was always doing his hair and that kind of stuff.
Right.
He looked sort of like that, except for he was blue. You know, big white
Hmm.
sneakers and, you know, sort of the
Yeah, like
comedy
the red
sidekick.
one with the fur.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it was fun. And then I lived in Cincinnati until 2000, and then we moved to New Hampshire. I lived there for 11 years. And then I said, I'm tired of the snow. Let me go down to Florida. You know, we have hurricanes down here, but like at most, maybe one a year comes into my area. And so I've lived through a couple of them. And really all that happens is it blows the screens out of my screen room in the backyard.
If you were to meet someone, okay, I'm going to pretend I am someone you're just meeting for the first time. And we've decided to have a coaching session. What are some of the things or the outlines that would actually kind of happen in a first interview?
It's a great question. I mean, it's important as a coach when we first get together as in a partnership or in a relationship that we sort of set the groundwork, that we understand you know what it means to have a coaching relationship. You know, I think you and I were talking before we started recording that a lot of people will see the word coach and they'll interpret that from a sports perspective. But the kind of coaching that I do and that others do is really not from that perspective. It's not me telling you how to, you know, live your life. Basically, it's me being
Right.
really, really curious
Right. And
about. Oh, go ahead.
about what I'm doing or why I'm here, right?
Yeah, but I want to understand, generally when somebody engages with a coach, it's because they find themselves in a situation in their life. They feel like they're stuck. There's more that they want out of life, but they can't figure out why they're not able to move forward with it. And that's part of what I do is we ask coaches, we ask a lot of open-ended questions. We ask a lot of you know, wanting to understand. As human beings, we operate probably 80 to 90% based on habit, and
No.
we don't always know that. We don't always recognize that. And as a coach, it's my part of my duty is to help you understand what your habits are,
Right.
and how they are influencing what's going on. So when we first get together, I do have you know, sort of a set of questions that we go through. You know, and if you you know, if you want, I'm happy to sort of run through a few of them just to get a little sample to see how that works. Is that all right with
No,
you?
yeah, because I figured, you know, for people that may misunderstand how coaching actually works, that this would be like a nice example.
Sure. I'd be
Mhm.
glad to. So what I want to do, I want to ask you just a couple of questions before we get started. All right.
Okay.
And these questions are really designed to do only one thing, and that's to help you in your exploration of entering into a professional coaching relationship. So what I'll tell you is feel free to answer these questions in any way you see fit. I want you to know that I have no expectations from your answers other than your own personal discovery. So of course there are no right or wrong answers, and I'm not trying to lead you anywhere. So is that all right with you?
That is perfectly fine.
Okay. So as we start, I'll ask you to get comfortable. If you choose to, you can close your eyes if that helps. I found that, you know, closing your eyes doesn't really make people relax more, but it helps you fill in the blanks on some of the questions that you might that you might be thinking. So tell me about your vision of your future.
Vision of my future is being a leader and leading people to the positive view of them.
Awesome. Great. That's a really powerful thing, really needed in our world today. One of the best definitions that I've ever heard for the term vision is that vision is a highly detailed mental picture of a preferable future. So if that's all right with you, we'll use that as our definition going forward. Is it okay?
That is perfectly fine.
All right. So oftentimes you may have heard people say something like, what are your goals, or where do you see yourself in 10 years, or something like that, right? And I used to ask people that all the time. And what I began to find was that I wasn't really helping people find their own answers. In fact, I think it became clear that I was really placing roadblocks in their way. Can you imagine what the problem is with asking these types of questions from people?
Usually I find that when you have such a large time frame, you barely know what you want to do next week. So it's like, if we can narrow it down, or maybe like, how would I like to feel? That would be great.
Got it. You know those like those maze puzzles, we can get them in school, or sometimes they show up in the newspaper. I used to spend forever on those things trying to figure out how to get from the beginning out to the end, until a friend of mine sort of gave me a tip, and he said, you have to start from the end instead of the beginning. And in some of my research and things that I've read, I came to understand that mapping software like Google Maps and Waze and Apple Maps, all those, they sort of operate the same way. So if you enter like a beginning place like New York City, and then the destination, for example, like Los Angeles, right? And the software actually starts at the end point and draws the route backwards to the beginning point. And I was curious why that happened. Like, why can't the computer just go through all the possible millions of calculations in a snap and then find the way there? And the problem is that when you do it that way, if it started at the beginning and tried to go to the end, it would constantly get stuck at all these little dead ends along the way and then have to backtrack. So in reality, you can actually only get there. You can't get there from here. You can only get here from there. So the destination is really the true beginning point. So I started wondering what may be keeping any of us from accomplishing our goals, from sort of raising to our full and wonderful potential as human beings. And I found there's so many mistakes I've made I could have avoided if I had this one truth back then, that I can't get there from here. I can only get here from there. So since we agreed that a vision is a highly detailed mental picture of a preferable future, then I wonder if maybe seeing the full vision first is the starting point. I mean, the highly detailed, fully grown vision, much like the entire apple tree, is already a reality inside of that one single apple seed. All the leaves, the branches, the fruit, the blossoms. I wonder if maybe the answer to achieving anything of significance is being a fully grown tree even before we plant the seed. So let's see if we can find the true beginning point, okay? So I want you to place yourself 10 years in the future. So how old are you now?
I'm 41 now.
41 now. All right. So I want you to see yourself as 51. Now the whole world is 10 years older. If you have a spouse, significant other, if you have children, they're all 10 years older. Okay.
Wow.
So here we are 10 years from now. It was 10 years ago that you and I started talking about a coaching relationship. 10 years ago in 2020, you were 41 years old. You had challenges and desires and goals. You wanted so many things for your life 10 years ago, but now you have achieved all the goals you had. You become an incredible, effective, and successful person. You're happy and fulfilled. You are a fully grown tree. Tell me some of the accomplishments you've achieved over the past 10 years.
Well, I'm an accomplished author, public speaker, screenwriter, and producer. And I'm traveling with Tyler Perry in my yacht. Mm-hmm.
Where are you traveling to?
Huh?
Where are you traveling to?
Does it matter when you're in a yacht?
That's true. You got to begin with the end in mind. You're not just going to go put it out in the ocean and say, all right, we'll get where we get, right?
So the kids will be all grown. I might be on my way to getting, well, not that they're not grown now, but I'm pretty sure I'm a grandmother and my grandbaby's about 5 years old. Nice. Because we had a pact. I said, nobody can make me a grandmother before I turn 45. Everybody agreed.
All right. All right. So since you're now 51, I have a couple of questions. Tell me about your history. What was it like over the past 10 years of your life?
It got better when I was able to surpass a lot of my insecurity. It got better when the doors opened and I was ready to fly. So, yeah, I can see that. I can see that happening.
Nice. Nice.
I started really jotting down the rest of my movies because I got 5 in work. So, yeah, no, definitely.
So if we go back 10 years ago to 2020, what decision did you make that sort of got you off on the right foot?
Getting out of my own brain and stop imagining things that weren't really there.
Nice. Nice. I want to take a moment here and just make sort of one point. And that's, I'm sure you're aware, words mean things. You know, the best words convey the right meaning, and the less than best words, they may convey the wrong thing, or at least something unintended. So, for example, I know a lot of people say they want to lose weight. Now, this may seem picky, but think about it. What's the first thing you want to do when you lose something?
You want to gain?
You want to go find it, right? Like, where are my keys? Where are my glasses? Right? I lost my glasses. I got to go find it.
Right.
Now, I get that losing weight is generally a good thing, but a better term may be shed the weight. And I'm not trying to be new age or anything, but you know, the intent of the process is weight reduction, a process of releasing that which we do not wish to continue to hold. Mm-hmm. So imagine if our entire approach to life was one of release and reach and remain. Release the things, actions, habits, intentions, and beliefs which bind us and keep us from achieving. Reach for the things, habits, intentions, relationships, and beliefs which are part of our change and growth. And remain in full contact with them until we approach our goals. And then the process starts all over again. So how does one release or shed the weight? Well, we eat differently. We have different physical activity. We have a different, we think differently about nutrition, etc. And how does one remain weighing less than before? We remain in the new beliefs about nutrition, physical activity, and lifestyle. So 10 years ago, back in 2020, we didn't give up something to gain the better thing. We released the things that weren't helping us in our goals and are now reaching for the things which we do. So if you and I were to work together in a coaching relationship over the next 90 days or 120 days or 180 days, and you were to reach the specific desired outcome, what would I need to know about you to help you bring that about?
Hmm. I guess it would have to be that sometimes I feel that I'm too much of a free spirit and that it's harder for me to actually um, be more grounded. So, yeah, I believe that's the problem that I might have.
Got it. Got it. So essentially, that's how I would start a coaching relationship with somebody, is wanting to start off by understanding the way that you think about things and offer some guidance around, choosing the right words and thinking about how we want to have that relationship. Generally, in a coaching session, I would not do anywhere near that much talking. I told you that in my job, I did 10 different jobs working for the same company, and they were sort of all over the map. I started off as an inbound sales rep, right, taking phone calls all day long, and then I went from there doing inbound service work, and then I made the next logical choice and I started doing desktop technical support, and then I moved over into project management, and I moved into software distribution, and I moved into operations, and I moved into learning development, and I moved into the technology part of learning and development, and I moved into the facilitation side of learning and development. And on the surface, that seems like this guy's all over the map. He needs to make up his mind and do something, right? But what I discovered is that the sort of common thread amongst all of those jobs was, in any of those roles, it was my job to ask questions so that I could understand the situation as well as possible, and then help figure out what's the right answer. And whether that answer was, these are the right investments for you, or this is the problem with your computer, or this is the software that you need, or these are the skills you need to have, so we need to get them taught to you, or whatever it was that investigation piece. It was asking the questions to really understand what's going on and then come up with a solution. And as a coach, it's basically the same thing, just me asking questions, wanting to understand you as an individual as much as possible. And for me, the big change is, as a coach, it's not my job to come up with the answer to your question. It's my job to ask questions that help you discover the answer for yourself. People know a lot more than they give themselves credit for, and they can come up with the answer to whatever their situation is if they give themselves enough credit to recognize they're smart enough to do it. Funny thing is, sometimes I will get into a conversation with somebody that I'm coaching, and I'll ask them a question to help them figure out the answer. And they'll say, I just don't know, right? They just can't figure out the answer. And I'll say, okay, so you don't know. And I'll say, but if you did know the answer, what would it be? And boom, they'll come up with the answer, right? There's something in their mind that's discrediting their ability to figure out that answer. And when I put it in sort of a what if scenario, like they're taking themselves off the hook, they'll figure it out.
It's true. That's what you did.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I appreciate that. Wow. You know what? This is very powerful. It's very just like, I've never been coached before. I'm pretty sure there's other people that feel like coaching seems scary. Someone that doesn't know or doesn't understand. But you gave just the right amount of questions, the type of questions to make you figure it out for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and not for anyone else, to tell you how to do anything. And like you said, I can't tell you what to do. And I'm like, not that I was looking for that,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, sometimes you just need that person to put it in that waffle situation, you know, there, 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 there. And so I only hope that this makes way for you to have more people more interested, at least, if not more open to possibly getting some type of coaching or anything like that. Because, you know, a lot of people, by us being quarantined, we're all scared. We're all in our house. We don't know what to do. You know, we're freaking out.
Right.
Just tell us, okay, you know what? Don't freak out. Let me ask you a question. You know?
Yeah.
And take us out of our own head sometimes. Our head space can be, you know, and I think that's a dangerous place for this day and time to be in. But I appreciate that, sir. You are great. I can't wait to put this up here. I can't wait. So, okay, so if you would have anything else, if you would like to say anything else before I close out.
I would just say, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. One of the things that that's come into my awareness, into the way that I think about things, comes from one of my mentors, a guy by the name of Paul Martinelli. And the way that he describes it is this: we are spiritual beings, gifted with an intellect, and placed into a physical body. And our society, our world, tends to pay way too much attention to the physical body and not enough to the spirit that resides within and the intellect that's been gifted. You know, you can go back in history to so many people who have done their best to sort of describe it. You know, even Martin Luther King Jr., right? Not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, right? And that's powerful for me. I just want to get to know people as individuals and help them recognize, you know, no matter how they appear, no matter what people have told them about what they're not worthy of, capable of, or required to do, there's more available and they're capable of more. And that needs to come out. The world needs that from every one of us. We are designed to work together. We are not all recipients of the same set of gifts. And what I'm good at, I can help with. And what I'm not good at, I need help with. And, you know, to your point earlier, when you felt that you might be, you know, too out there and not grounded enough, I would say I disagree. You know, you have to be out there and you need to partner up with somebody who needs that. Right? Let the grounded people be grounded and let the out there people be out there. A kite is never going to fly unless somebody holds its string.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Now it's okay. It's all right. It's okay. It's all right. They're like, whoo, she's too much. Okay, that's all right. I'm too much by myself. If need be, come on. You might want to. It's fine.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, I can't wait to get this up here because like people are not gonna believe. They're gonna be like, she's great.
She lost it.
But she's having a good time.
That's right.
New people.
That's right.
And people are just, you know, just pouring into her, you know, what she needs. And I appreciate that. I hate talking about myself in third person, but it's weird. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Zimmerman.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yes, sir. And I hope you have a most wonderful day. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for living your best life with Lady Maya. And I hope everyone has a most wonderful day. Please be safe. Please be healthy. And that's in this climate. Please like, share, subscribe, and just let's have a conversation, you guys. Let's have a conversation. See you for now. Take care.